Frank. What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where are we gonna party?
I don't know, somewhere.
Hey, we could go to the park.
Oh, no, we can't. The cops said they'd shoot us if we go back to the park. Yeah, and I ain't in no mood to dominate.
I like death.
Fools, and welcome to Minute 4 of Do You Want to Party? A Movies by Minute podcast of the 1985 groundbreaking horror classic, The Return of the Living Dead. I'm your host, Troy, and Minute 4 starts with getting a lot of orders for split dogs, and ends with Look Alive. So picking up where the last minute had left off, the tour of the warehouse and its contents continue. We were introduced at the last minute to the actual dogs themselves, and again, later on, they will come into play once situations come to fruition during the movie. But then, as they're about to continue on, Freddy makes a growling noise, jokingly at it, and then, being very stern with him, Frank actually disciplines him for making the offhanded jokey stuff, and which is unusual for the usually jovial Frank to do. There are some more handwritten notes. The medical specimens on the support beam of the shelves seems to be on the shelf that has the split dogs on it. So, and below them, there are these big red with white labeled vats. Not 100% sure what they actually are, because unfortunately the camera doesn't focus on them as the focal point as the actors move away from the area. And just at that moment, the 2-minute continuous shot ends, and it pulls back to the original aerial shot, where it wasn't the original aerial shot, but it's the same shot as when we first had our introduction to the interior of the warehouse, where the lights are being switched off by Bert before he left. However, as we can see the Freddy and Frank heading off into the corner of the warehouse, they are cast into darkness. Then it oddly cuts back to the camera shot similar to the oneer that had just finished, and both actors are lit up. The camera sits at the end of the shelving, pointed at the actors across the room. So from this shot, we can see on one of the shelves in the foreground a row of green oxygen tanks and hoses hanging from the various sections and all that. Below that is some animal cages, is what it looks like. From also this angle, you can see more of the layout of the warehouse. We now see what's on the far side of where the schedule board was written. We have a metal medical looking shelving unit that has a coffee machine in it with a pot of coffee on it, to pull drawers and a double open door below that, and it definitely is one of those old school metal looking ones. Next to that is the black door, which we later learn that it leads to the basement. Spoiler alert, that does come into play later, but there is a red sign written in white lettering that says keep out just above it. Then the next to that we can see half of, because it's obstructed by shelving, is what looks to be one of those eye wash tools mounted to a green plaque on the wall, because there's a little bit of a safety label next to it, and you see a little bit of a squeeze box. It's one of the ones where you just have like the water and the little vestibule below it, and you put it up to your eyes and like squeeze the water into it to clean off. And then next to that is the bolt-lined metal door that is the walk-in freezer. So once the door is opened, both actors go inside, and then the spooky music starts up. It's really kind of cool, a nice little synth, classical, spooky sounding music. Inside, it's a 70s style wood panel walls that have this faux looking frost to them. Again, got to give it to Tom Matthews playing Freddy, because he's still perfectly reflecting the look of amazement on his face. Because when he's introduced to this, like Frank says, we'll say hello. He's introduced to this cadaver, listed as a yellow cadaver or yellow man, depending on what you're doing. I think the effect is referred to as yellow man. The actual moving actor is compared to the yellow cadaver, and the yellow cadaver is played by Terry Holohan. I hope that I have actually pronounced that name correctly. So while there are several these double hooks hanging from the ceiling, a beam attached to the upper section of this little freezer, there's only one cadaver in here hanging from the hooks that are apparently jammed right into his ears, holding him upright, which is, I guess, one way to do it. So upon the revealing of the cadaver, where the camera shoots from his feet up, we see he's actually really dangling there, and apparently Terry is suspended mid-body off the ground to something attached to the wall directly behind him, and the harness that they have him in is disguised from the plastic draped over him. Now, there are usually more, and for the near future, it's a good thing that there is only the one, because one is good enough. Again, Frank plays up the dramatic situation, and when he sees he's got Freddy hooked, he laughs, cutting the tension, and then he exits, and once again has to break Freddy's gaze to have him come with him, and there's time to do paperwork in the office. According to the script, which is a story and screenplay by Dan O'Bannon, this is the revision from October 1983. It is based on a story and screenplay by John Russo, Rudy Rishi, and Russell Steiner. For the most part, we just have a change in the banter between the conversation that Frank and Freddy has while they're going on the exploration right up into getting to see the cadaver. For example, Frank's line after the split dog incident, Frank says, "There's the gurneys and the surgical equipment, and that's where we keep the oxygen. Watch out for that oxygen. It's explosive. Don't smoke around it." The stage direction of Frank walks Freddy over to the big freezer door, and then Frank continues, "This is where we keep the fresh cadavers, and we sell these to medical schools and to the U.S. Army for ballistic tests." Frank then opens the freezer door, walks in, followed by Fred. We have the interior, cold, locker, afternoon, no windows, as the description of the scene. There is only one body in the locker, hanging vertically like a suit at a cleaner's, wrapped in plastic, which I had to read that because that's actually quite a very descriptive way to describe what we actually did see. Then pretty much the rest of the conversation is exactly as it is. Frank glancing over his order sheet. "We're low on inventory. Got a shipment coming on Monday." Freddy then goes, "How many bodies are there usually in here?" It's at this point where there's a bit of a change in Frank's line. "Well, we try not to overstock. It's like the restaurant business. You don't want your inventory to lose its freshness. Come on back and help me nail the lid on that skeleton, and I'll show you how to fill out the shipping forms." They walk out of the locker. And that's where this particular minute ends. But like I said, the addition is to finishing off the skeleton in the container that's supposed to, obviously, and again, according to the script, have two skeletons in it. Over on the commentary track, Dan O'Bannon continues to talk about how the exportation of skeletons from India had ceased just after the release of his movie. He mentions two factors come into play. The fact that it just might have been a coincidence that this happened to be the same timing, or it could be the fact that it had made shine a light on the actual situation. He then continues to say that he had a suspicion that there was something criminal involved with the actual skeleton farms from India. Any questions about the reality of how do you know when a person is of the right age to have a perfect skull with the perfect set of teeth? He then finishes it off by mentioning that he put it into the movie as a humorous note. The production designer, William Stout, then mentions that he purchased for his girlfriend as a birthday present one of the fetal skeletons. And at the timing, it was just before they stopped doing the export. He then, as the camera is now panning up the yellow cadaver, he mentions that the frost on the back wall is actually, which turns out to be, Christmas tree flocking. Laughing at that moment, Dan then goes on to say how he wished that they had the ability to chill down the room so you could actually see their breath in there, but still goes on to compliment the fact that it actually still kind of looks realistic. William then retorts with the fact that they went through a ton of the Christmas flocking. So at this particular time, we were going to go to our random Return of the Living Dead IMDb fact. Now, like in the previous episode, I had figured out a way to pad a bit of these earlier episodes where I didn't have much to talk about because I'm waiting till later on when I have my guest hosts to expand on different characters and different actors and different situations, whatnot. But so I've come up with the IMDb has 108 facts about this movie. So during this sequence, I'm going to bring up a random number generator on the interwebs and punch in a minimum and maximum of 1 to 108. And our first random fact is number 44. And again, for the most part, a lot of these facts will just be something, little glimpses that'll be out there for future explanation, or it just might be something that probably might not even come up ever again, but gosh darn it, we got it into the podcast somehow. Random fact 44. Jewel Shepard had tremendous difficulty with her "go choke a chicken" line because she didn't know how. Jewel Shepard had tremendous difficulty with her "go choke a chicken" line because she didn't know what the phrase meant. As a direct result of this, 45 takes were done before Shepard finally said the line right. That definitely sounds about right, and more about Jewel Shepard when we get around to her moment to shine. Random number generator fact number 40. The Tarman zombie is performed by actor and puppeteer Alan Trotman. He is best known for his work with Jim Henson and the Muppets. Tarman proved so popular that Tarman reprised the character in Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And the character made Tarman proved so popular that Trotman reprised the character in Return of the Living Dead Part 2 from 1988, and the character made a cameo in Return of the Living Dead Rave to the Grave in 2005 as well. And of course, we definitely will be going into a little more detail about Alan Trotman's career once we get around to the Tarman sequence of the movie. And finally for this episode, random number generator, information number, fact number 84. Leanna Quigley wore a wig as her role as Trash. And we are definitely going to be going into a much deeper dive with Leanna Quigley when we get around to her sequence. And on that note, that's going to bring us to the end of this particular minute of the movie The Return of the Living Dead. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope to be able to entertain you next week with the next minute of our.
You've just been listening to a Planet Geek production of Do You Want to Party? A Movies by Minute podcast of the 1985 The Return of the Living Dead. Please be sure to subscribe, download, comment, share, rate, and review. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, or Letterboxd. Search for Planet Geek Productions. X, former Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, search for Planet Geek Pod. Or send us an email to planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Our closing music is provided by Night Chill. See the show notes for more details. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and farewell, fiends.